Welcome to Google Startup Grind. My name is JD Salvago. I'm the co-director, and that is that sexy guy over there is Jason Bergman. He is the director of marketing. And thank you guys for coming out. And we would like to thank Emily for coming. Successful entrepreneur, going to teach us how to scale a niche e-commerce product, the Little Broad Company, and all the tricks, all the secrets. You got to share, okay? Because everyone's taking notes here. We got a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs. Everyone wants to know how you did it. And I want to thank WeWork for partnering with us and giving us this wonderful space, and everyone else who was involved. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Emily and Jason. Here we go.
Hi, Emily.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Sagittarius. And I grew up, I'm an Angelino. I was born and raised in LA. We actually went to high school together, backstory. And I went to USC, so I really stayed in LA. So I went to school down the street. I was actually a print journalism major, but went into broadcast journalism and became a TV writer and producer. And I did shows for like History Channel, Lifetime, Discovery. And and I left my job as a producer. I loved my job. I loved it a lot. I traveled a lot, I learned so much, and then but I always had this passion for bras. Like an obsession for bras, and I could never find one that fit me right. So that led me to quit my job and start the Little Bra Company.
Nice. So you basically became a founder overnight.
I did.
What does it take to be a founder at that stage?
It took a lot of, I have to say, guts, even though I felt like I didn't have any when I first started. Like I said, I really loved my job, and I felt like I had the golden handcuffs. Like I was getting a weekly salary that was great. It was allowing me a lifestyle that I really enjoyed, and then having to start my company was really, it took me a long time thinking about starting my company. So I would say it took me 4 years from thinking about it to finally quitting my job, which was the big thing. But I was given a few signs, I would say, to quit the job. So one of them was I'd been talking about this Little Broad Company. I think that's actually how the name came about. I've been talking about it with friends and friends of friends. I have this idea I really want to start, which is I want to have. I want to create lingerie that fits smaller women, more petite sizes and everything. And I've been talking about it, and then I think a friend of mine, or a friend of friends, hey Emily, how's that Little Broad Company going? And I was like, oh, really good. I like that name. So that's kind of how the name came. But then at the time, my partner at the time was, kind of challenged me and was like, what do you want to do with the rest of your life? And what do you, just ask me the question, if you had $5 million, what would you do with your life? And I would realize, I would start the Little Broad Company. He's like, well, you don't really need $5 million really to start it, so why don't you just start it? He's like, what are you afraid of? And I said, I don't know. And he's like, well, what, afraid of having to sell the bras out of the back of your car? And I was like, yeah, but actually I could do that, So when I felt that would be the worst that could happen is I would have to sell this whole lot of bras out of the back seat of my car. I was like, okay. That happened, and then I had a friend who worked at Smashbox, which was this big makeup company, and she was like, I knew a lingerie company because we're putting on a fashion show they were launching a body makeup. She's like, I need lingerie. Do you have lingerie yet? And I was like, no, but I'll get it for you. And I said, She's like, because we will pay for the show and do everything, you just need to come with a collection and models and everything. So I said, okay, I will do it. And so that kind of really like pushed me to, then I quit my job. I quit my job and I said, okay, I have 6 months to put this fashion show together that was like kind of given to me. And I said, that'll just be the launch and that'll be, but.
So you bootstrapped it from the beginning, basically?
Oh yeah.
Did you have any money saved as you were planning?
No.
Okay.
So at the time, I always say my first investors were MasterCard, Visa, and American Express. And I always say like it probably wasn't, it's not like advice I'd give to all these business school students or first-time entrepreneurs or anything, but actually, I mean, that's the way I made it happen. I mean, it's like the first time writing a check. You know how they send you those checks with your credit card? Do these really work? And I never, I was somebody who never carried a credit card balance or anything like that. And when I had to write that first check to my production, to my factory, I just wrote one of those checks and it worked. So I really did, use
That's real
credit cards. Yeah. It was, yeah.
How long did it take from that point to be a startup to like where you felt like it was a real business at that point?
I felt like it took about like 18 months to about 2 years.
Right.
I did start this business out of my house. I was working out of a bedroom in my house, and
Awesome.
yeah, I had a desk, and I had an intern that I had. She started like maybe 6 months into out of my house. I said, "Are you okay working in here?" And she said yes, and we started shipping bras out of my house. So. Yeah, I mean, I cooked lunch for her.
So she had all the perks.
Yes, those were the benefits, was lunch.
Awesome. So at that point, what are some milestones that you hit as a startup entrepreneur that you started seeing like the light at the end of the tunnel and things started happening for you? And obviously the fashion show was in the beginning, but.
Yeah. So the fashion show didn't make me any money. I mean, that was just me saying, I'm actually going to do this. It was almost like me admitting to everybody, like, I'm starting this company and I quit my job, everybody. It was like my coming out party. Like, this is it.
Awesome.
So that didn't make me any money. So I still had to make sales happen. So at the time, it was kind of, there was a transition period where I was still traveling a lot as a writer-producer. I kind of did a little freelance work. And then
That's very important too. So
yes, to have, I still needed a little bit of an income, so I was able to have like some freelance jobs. And so what I did was I brought my bra samples with me, and literally like I would, in between shoots that I was working on, I would go into bra stores I knew that were like in San Francisco or in New York or whatever. And I just brought my samples, and at first I was just kind of like, are you interested? Like, here, can I leave a few with you? Do you want them? Let me know. And like 2 weeks later, I got my first order. So then I was like, oh, now I really have to make this happen. Like, this is, it's only like an order for like 2,000 bras, but I know I'm gonna have to really make this order
That's
happen.
a big order though when you're working out of your house for 2 months.
Yeah, so I always say, it was like 0 to nothing. But so, I did that a little bit, and then I did my first trade show a few months after my fashion show, and I knew that I had to sell. So I sold those first 24 bras, which I didn't have. They weren't produced or anything. I just got an order for them. So I was like, I need to get more orders. So I went to this trade show. I put everything on my credit card.
Yep.
The Vegas hotel, the booth, everything. I didn't know anything about how to even set up a booth. They said, oh, I had a friend who did a lot of trade shows. So I said, what do I do? I said, they'd give me 2 chairs, a table, and basically 3 walls. She's like, well, now you gotta decorate it and do everything. I was like, okay. So she really helped me put it together. I was like, well, she's like, you need an order form? I was like, an order form? Okay. I was like, can you help me create one? she helped me put it together, and I felt like at my first trade show, it was just like, and everybody, was, everybody around me was kind of like, oh, it's okay if you don't get your order, your first trade show, anything. But we actually did really well. Like, I got a lot of orders, and I was like, now I really, it's not just one store, but now I've got like a dozen or so stores who are interested, and now I've got to really make this happen. So it was really scary, but that's when I said, okay, I'm gonna write this little credit card check and make these bras happen.
Were you able to, because at that point sourcing becomes an issue as well, right?
Yeah.
And finding the people to make it, and was that made in USA in LA, here in LA, was it overseas?
So when I first started just even researching the bra that I wanted to make, I really was
Which is
thinking,
daunting.
what was that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know, I didn't really have a design background. I just knew what I really liked and I wanted, and I knew how I wanted it to fit. I was the fit model. Like, I wanted it to work for me. So I couldn't find anything in LA. I couldn't find anything in the US. I looked and looked, and manufacturing was already moved across, the oceans. So luckily, I had some friends who knew people who manufactured in China, and so I just said, well, I have to go. And it was literally, I didn't know anybody, but I just started making phone calls.
So you went over there?
I went over there, and it was like, I said, it was kind of like, I describe it like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Like, you just go and you try them all out. You're like, this one's too big, this one's too small, this one's too dirty, this one, okay, this one's just right, and I found somebody who I still work with today, and he's definitely we've just grown together, and he believed in me, and we work together still, and we have a really, it's kind of like a marriage.
Well, yeah,
Sometimes
you
we don't
found a
like each other,
manufacturing
but we get
From the
frustrated
beginning,
with
which
each
is
other.
incredible.
Yes. But we make it happen, and he was believing in me. He's like, I'll make your samples for you. I was like, great. He was willing to work with, I need, small minimums, because I'm just starting out. So he was willing to really work with me, and that's really hard to find. I can't even find it now still. It's just hard to find. So I was really lucky, and he was willing to, like I said, he just believed in me, so.
At that point, typically retailers buy on the calendar
Yeah.
for seasons, right? So were you trying to do at-once business at that point, or just getting what you could, as many as you can at that point, or?
No, because I went to that trade show, and I had orders for it. I knew I had to ship by February for the next spring. So I went to my first show in August, and I knew I had to make it happen. So I'd already planned with him, I had this collection already designed for this fashion show I did. So I was like, I already knew, I had patterns and everything for this, so I just had to basically give him the check to make more, But what I learned also, I don't remember who told me, but it's probably somebody at the trade show. And I made friends with all these people at the trade shows, all these brands. I was trying to I didn't know anything, so I was really trying to get information from people. I made,
Most people are willing to give information, if you ask.
They are, and I really felt embraced by them. Some people are like, oh, you're just starting out, let me give you all my leads. I was like, great, thank you. They were just so open. So she was just typing, she's like, have you been here? Oh no, okay, let me just email you all these lingerie stores that you need to call. So that I felt like they were just really kind that way. But I forgot what was the, anyway.
Either way.
Yeah.
You were committed.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Oh, I was gonna say this. What I learned by what somebody told me was whatever you do, ship on time. That was a huge, huge tip.
What year was this around this was happening?
So this is 2007 to 2008, which also, as everyone knows, was the Great Recession.
Right.
So I started my business, and I felt, in that first trade show, by the second trade show I went to, which was the next spring, which was in 2008, it was like the sky was falling. And everybody around me and all these brands were
And retailers.
were panicking. And I was so new to the business, I was like, what's going on? I was like, oh, well, good, someone just wrote another order. And they wrote another order. So I was coming 0, so even a small order was great for me. Like I thought that was great. So I was happy. I was happy to get any order. And so for me, I was, like I said, going from 0.
Yeah.
I could only go up or, you know, and everybody else I think was at some other, you know, they were living in another era.
Yes.
And as everything was falling apart,
They were staying at better hotels than you were. Probably.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The,
So I
the
was,
expense budgets were crazy back then.
yeah, and so then so a lot of them disappeared the next year. And that is also something I learned about being at these trade shows and things, is like, you have to show up. And they all know, like, you know, it's survival. Like, if you come, and if you're a new company and you're a new business, and like I had just been at one trade show, this was like my second trade show by the spring of 2008. And again, I'm like, the thing I had to do was be able to ship the next shipment. Like that for sure had to happen. And even if it was 2008 and there was, you know, the Great Recession was happening. So I kind of bootstrapped it there and just made it happen, you know?
Did you extend terms as a new company, or did you have to do COD on delivery, or how was that for you at that phase?
So I did extend terms. Well, at that phase, it was all credit card. You know, I just said,
Okay.
you know,
Yeah. Awesome.
give me your credit card and I will ship you. And you know, I only started to extend terms to people like I really knew. Like I don't even know how I knew this, but like friends were like, just get to know these people a little bit, let them order a couple times, and then you can start extending terms and
Right.
things like that. But yeah, I mean, but everything was by credit card then.
During that time, I think the bigger brands were extending terms even more.
Yeah.
So it's amazing that you're able to do that.
Yeah.
Because they got the bad end of the deal at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how did you continue to build it from there?
So.
And you were getting editorial, you were getting some press coverage too?
Yeah, I started getting a little press coverage here and there. I mean, I couldn't afford any PR or anything. My goal was really to, and like where I felt like I needed to spend the money was, one, to make it to the trade shows, and one, to get my product out. It was to also get it into stores. I just wanted to make sure the product was in boutiques and stores and with fitters who knew how to fit, so I could actually get the product on people. And so I didn't have any PR budget or anything, but I don't know how people just, you know, again, like the internet this is 10 years ago that I started the company, and the internet was just kind of getting more active. And
you got some influencers on board back then?
did I get what?
Some influencers back then?
Yeah, so
Before the term was really...
Yes, before influencers were actual influencers. I was watching YouTube, and I was watching it to, you know, of course, figure out how to do a hairstyle. And I like went into the whole of like YouTube for like 3 hours, like watching all these people, and I was like, she would be a really good customer for a little bra company, and she would be, and I was just like, okay, let's just package up some bras and just send them off to all these girls. And again, this is before they were all influencers, and everyone was just happy to get some free product. And it landed in one of these girls. Her name was Jean. She had From Head to Toe. It was at the time a growing YouTube channel and everything. And I didn't even know it was on until we started getting phone calls. Like, oh, I just saw your bra on, you know, YouTube and everything. I was like, oh, let me check it out, you know. And so that started happening. And the same, like, literally, I think the same week, this New York Times article came out, and we were included. It was all about like petite lingerie, and she interviewed me and everything. So then suddenly we got calls from that, and that was, it was crazy because it was also at the time I also planned I hadn't like taken a vacation in like 2 years, or hadn't even like stepped out of my house in 2 years. And it's the first time I planned this like big holiday to go to France or something, and all this happened. It was like the orders were coming in, and I hired an intern and like 1.5 interns, you know what I'm saying? Like I had like one, and I just said, they were like, it's okay, we can handle it. I was like, are you sure? Like I'm gonna be, and it was a really good lesson for me, because honestly we had like our biggest sales ever to put to that point, especially online. Also, let me just tell you, that changed my online business. That was what changed our e-commerce, was that moment. And I was gone for like the first 2 weeks of it, and I learned that, okay, I can delegate, I guess. I can step away. I've set this all up. I've put it all together. I've trained everybody here. And because up until that point, I was like 24/7 into my company. I never stepped away or left. And it's hard to balance, so.
Awesome. So when did the e-com really start kicking in for you as far as developing the back end and making sure the inventory was there and stuff like that, like from that point?
So when I first started the company, my goal wasn't really to have, I mean, I knew I wanted a website. And at that time, I said, you know, I think we should just add a web store just in case people want to buy a little bra company and they live in a town that doesn't have a lingerie boutique. I want to be able to service them. You know, my goal is to make sure that everybody who hears about Little Bra Company and wants one is able to access one. So I, you know, just built, I had my friend build a site. It was like a Zen cart site. It was really, you know, pretty,
There was Zencard and Yahoo.
yeah, there was just, it was very minimal. And, but then it just started to build from there. So I think it really kind of started with that, you know, the article and the YouTube channel. And then it became like word of mouth. And then, so it's really grown from there. And now it's probably, now it's majority of my business versus before I was really focused more on my wholesale business.
Right.
And now I'm lucky because I feel like we've always had it, and now that the whole retail landscape has changed, we're here and we're still prepared, and we have inventory. Your question about inventory was like, you know, in order to make those wholesale orders happen, I had to order a lot. You know, it's not like you can just order. You know, when you order from, especially an overseas factory, you have a minimum order quantity.
And time.
Yeah. So you have to order more than what you actually sold. So I was like, this is perfect for my online business. I'll just sell it. And that was key because I know a lot of friends who were also in the lingerie business who were at the time were doing more custom made things, and they couldn't really go online as fast as I could because they didn't have the inventory. You know, and they were manufacturing in America, in the US, and they could only, you know, if they were making things for, you know, just as cut to order, basically. So you can't do that with an online business. You have to have inventory.
Right.
And so, so I was prepared that way.
Well, that's typically a killer for a lot of brands, but I think you found the balance early, right?
Yeah.
How did you navigate because there was a point where e-com was huge, and then it leveled out, and the retailers had their own stores as well. So how do you navigate between your retailers that have stores and then you having your own e-com store with them as well?
So we've always kind of had this, you know, I want to say like a little bit of a battle with our retailers who don't like the fact that we have our own e-commerce store. I mean, actually, a lot of them are fine because we always list all of our retail stores on our website, so when people come, and we always refer them to our retailers. But there's a few that were always like, well, you have your own website, why would they come to our store? I said, there's a very different customer that comes who is shopping in stores. Like, I actually really like to shop in stores too. So I still think there's a customer and a place for traditional retail.
Right. Well, retail's curating as well.
Yeah.
You have to curate, basically.
Yeah. And I said, your job is the customer service. So if the customer basically came into your store because they saw that you sell the Little Bra Company, because a lot of those stores would be like, well, they come in and say they heard about, that we sell the Little Bra Company. I'm like, so they came in, I go, now you got to close the deal. I mean, your customer service needs to close the deal. Like, I'm here to supply you with whatever you need. So that's kind of, you know, where, and then I'm totally fine. I encourage them to open their own e-commerce store. I think you just can't avoid that these days. Everybody has to have an online store. Every brand has to have an online store. And I just feel like the more places that it's at, I mean, I'm not Nike, but you know that like Nike sold in the department store, and the next door they have their retail store, and next door to that there's a boutique that's selling, a few of their shoes too.
Right.
So I mean, I think that's just where, but not that same customer is not going to walk into the boutique versus that department store all the time. So it's just, what kind of experience are you going to give them when they actually walk in? So.
During this time, you were in the early phase of buying Google AdWords,
Right.
right?
Yes.
Way farther back.
Yeah.
So, how did that change with what we're talking about?
Yeah. So when I first started,
Because you had the best niche.
Yeah, I had a very, unique niche. It was small bras, little bras, petite bras. We specialize in smaller sizes that start at like 28A, and which is a very unique size. So we were buying words for really cheap. Nobody, because we were really the only brand that was, doing something like this. So I was buying. So our return on our AdWord investment was huge, because I was buying the words for so cheap. And then somewhere along the line, the algorithm changed. Google decided to change the algorithm. And more people, I had more retailers, online retailers, selling my product. Either boutiques or also like bigger retailers. We had bigger retailers who were selling the product. We recently had a partnership with Target, for example, and we created a whole secondary line for them, but they were still using our AdWords. I mean, basically the same words that we wanted to use. And so that really changed the cost of our own AdWords. we had always been like getting, and so, but there's a balance, it's like, it's fair competition. Like I can't, this is also my retailer, and I support them because, they're selling our product, but, so then it makes me have to just, okay, I've got to re-strategize. Like how else am I gonna be able to, I don't know, find new customers and maybe not be so traditional about these AdWords. I've got to find another way to get the customer. And technology and all of this stuff is changing all the time. So like how they changed the algorithm that one time, they're going to change the algorithm again. There's going to be another new.
And social selling is changing every day as well. Yeah.
So I think that is also a lesson I've learned a lot in this, just doing what I'm doing, and I, even tell my staff that it's like you got to be flexible because things are changing, and I go, today this technology doesn't exist, but I'm like, let's all keep our eye on, the next thing, so we are ready for it.
Right.
Something to make our fulfillment easier, our shipping easier, it didn't exist, but, we checked like 2 months later, it's like, oh my gosh, we have new shipping rates or anything, like that has changed a lot because of all of this e-commerce, just the whole shipping business has changed.
Right. Do you still use influencers now as that is changing as well, like significantly like we were talking about before, but do you still, are you paying for it? How has it changed like drastically in the last?
Yeah, so it's changed huge. I mean, like for example, like the person I, may have sent something to and just wanted free product before is now like charging $10,000 or $20,000 just to mention it in their YouTube video or blog or something like that, or it's become sponsored, or you have to be part of this group in order to like get in. So I've been really reluctant because part of me is like, well, I want it to be like a really organic, like true word of mouth, like I don't want it to be, because I feel like the influencers that I followed before, it's like, oh, this is all really great product because they really like it and they really are using it. Now I see it's like paid, and like, well, of course they love it. They're saying they love it because they're getting money for it. So I haven't really, to be honest, gotten into the game yet. But I'm sure if I want to stay really competitive, I'm going to have to. So I guess my strategy has really been for our company is to really be strong in our own social media. So we are trying to engage directly with our customers, creating our own content that's interesting for people to come to. So I don't have to, because I think like what we're creating and the kind of personality that, we have for the company is interesting too.
Right.
So that's kind of where I'm more focused on. But I understand the importance of influencers in this business now.
So as your brand is extending to all these channels, how do you maintain selling to like a Target? How did you protect your identity that way?
Well,
Moving forward with
we
that.
created a line especially for them, so it wasn't the same as our main line. And I really feel like it actually, and the reason I also did it was I also wanted to, like I said, one of my goals was just to have women who wanted the little bra company to be able to get it, and that meant to be able to afford it, or like our main line is a little bit more expensive. Not terribly, but this Target just made it more accessible to a lot more people. And so I wanted to be able to have that, but it also, everybody shops at Target, and so it also brought a lot of people who saw the Target brand that we had, it's called Ariat, and it kind of, still brought customers and at least eyeballs back to our site.
It's huge.
In our store.
No, I mean it's a gigantic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it brought, so I think I think it was just overall good for the brand, completely that we did something so at least that, people who didn't know about us before but saw it, they bought something there, but
Right.
then, they still are interested in the LeBron company. So
Is that just in the U.S. or how do they? Is it
just
Canada?
US.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That must have been a lot of preparing, fulfillment-wise and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. But I had a really good team
Awesome.
who made it happen.
Moving on.
Yeah.
So last year we did Female Founders Month for Google Startup Grant.
Uh-huh.
So who's like a gal that inspires you? And thinking about you as a startup entrepreneur, mogul.
Well, I've been thinking about this a little bit, and I think, and it's not, there's a lot of fashion designers and people that I admire who inspire me, but as a business, I really admire Panda Express. And I've always felt like this is such a good business model, like what this family has done.
And they have Boba now.
And they have Boba now. But what I really kind of admired was the female founder. The Peggy Chern, and her and her husband opened Panda in the 70s in Pasadena. What I admire about her is that she didn't have a background in food necessarily, but she kind of took her background, which was I think in science and mathematics and computers and everything, and she came on into her company to really streamline this business, and I think that's what really made Panda so successful. And what I love about the business too is just I feel like every time I go, I don't eat there very often, but I still love it's so efficient, and it's everywhere, everybody loves it, it's fresh, and I feel like a lot of this fast casual food that's happening now, it all comes from that, just cooking small batches and stuff.
Right.
I guess I'm also a foodie, so I can appreciate this, but I just also feel like they've kept this business going and grew it in a way that was, now it's a multi-billion-dollar company, and it's still within their family, it's still family owned,
And the orange chicken is delicious.
and it's delicious, it never changes. I literally have friends from Asia who come, first thing they want to do is eat Panda Express orange chicken.
That's hilarious.
Because it's they don't have, orange chicken doesn't exist.
Well, you
in
can be in an
China.
airport and it tastes the same too. That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and they're still and they're a family that gives back, and so I admire that too, and someday I hope can scale my company to a place that.
Don't forget about us. What's some advice you can give to female founders?
I know it's kind of easy to say now, but it's to not be afraid. Not be afraid of like the failure.
I mean, you went for it though.
Yeah, I mean,
You really went for it.
yeah, I always say like the hardest decision, and I still say that was to start it, was to literally like make the first step and like step off, and then everything after that was easy. And it's still, you know, everything after that decision when you say like, I'm really gonna do it, becomes survival. So it's very easy to make decisions when you're just like, you don't have that many choices. Like, you know, you just have to make it happen. So it becomes, so if
Start,
I just
basically
to start,
yeah.
start, like literally step off, and then everything will follow. I mean, as long as you know, kind of, you gotta put the hours and work into it and everything, but the hardest, even that, hard work is like nothing. Like, you know, like I can work 24/7, but like making that decision to like leave the golden handcuffs of having a job that was going to, you know, I was assured a check every week, you know, that's hard.
How many hours did it take, just going back real quick,
Yeah.
when you were a founder? Because now everyone wants to be a founder now or CEO, or right? I mean, what did it really take for you back then when you quit your job and you had that 18 months? Was it 20 hours? Was it refined 10? Was it whatever it took?
It was 24/7.
Right.
I mean, I lived where my office was, so weekends and everything. I mean, like I had to kind of. It was hard. I mean, I had every time I woke up, I was steps away from my office, so I didn't even have to commute very far. So, I mean, it was 24/7, and I think that's why I think after 2 years I was getting burnt, because I was like, it was nonstop.
Right.
But I also loved it. Like, I loved doing it. So I was, you know, I feel like the hours went by so fast, even though it was all the time, but it went by really fast because I was learning, I was growing, I was like seeing results. Yeah, I was seeing results. I was seeing like, there's one thing to get an order, and then the best thing is to get a reorder. So then you know, like, okay, they liked it, it worked. That's a huge thing. So that's when you know, okay, that's results. That's, and I still live for that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Everything was so great. So my question was, I know you said a lot about having a great team is like key. So just a few people that I know that are doing startups, finding the right people, finding the right match, personality-wise, work ethic-wise. So where did you go to find your team? And then was it like a trial and error? Like, this is not really working. Like, how was that process for you?
Great question.
Yeah. It's finding the right team is really hard, and I've had successes and failures in it, and I've learned a lot. Like I never, it's like one thing to start a business and then you're like, I'm also HR, and that's like a tough place to be too. But when I first started, I was really lucky. I think for me, when I started building my business, like I said, I had these interns. And I really needed them to, I was always asking for interns who really wanted their hands in everything, And so I kind of started hiring my interns. Like once I was able to like hire my first employee, it was one of these interns who I already trained,
And where did you find them? Like, there's creeps on Craigslist.
Yeah.
And,
I know.
It's so hard.
Well, I think at the time I went through a lot of universities, like job sites and stuff like that, but you get the most return on Craigslist. And I know and you have to weed out some of the others. I mean, we do Indeed now, we do, but I'm always like, even though as much as I want to avoid Craigslist, everyone still goes on there and looks for jobs. So and even what I was noticing when I was trying to hire college students for interns, and I was going through all of these university career centers and everything, I wasn't getting that much back, but then I put on Craigslist, and I'm like, all the schools that I had sent postings to, all these students came from those schools. So they were all looking on Craigslist. They were all looking on Craigslist anyway. So I would say I probably got a lot from Craigslist. Yeah, I mean my office manager, my right hand, was an intern for me. I don't know how many years ago, and now she's grown to be, running my business. So, yeah. But I feel like it's really, for me, just having, I think you'll find people who are, I always say, like, I want you to be here only if you really want to be here, and surprisingly, I've actually found a lot of those people, who, that's more important to me than all of your skills, like you want to be here and you want to try, I'm willing to work with you.
So are you hiring interns now? That's what we want to know.
I know.
Anyone else? Here you go.
Okay, so question about the margin when you compare it to like the retail versus your direct to e-commerce store. And I know you mentioned competition with advertising and all of that. Did you ever feel like, okay, well, I can keep more if it's coming directly to me, or did you feel like I really need that exposure at being at a retail and maybe having more margins? Did you,
Awesome question.
like, where was your mind space?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like there's always a balance. Like I couldn't exist as a brand if I didn't have my products in a retail store, especially because I sell bras. And bras are, a lot of customers still want to buy bras, in person. And feel them, try them on, and everything like that. So I still am very, like, my retail business is really important to me. I mean, my wholesalers are important to me, but my customers who are selling in their stores. Of course, I can, make more money on e-commerce and everything, and I'm lucky because I feel like just like I said, the retail landscape has changed, that I'm ready for it. But I still feel like there's a space for it, and for me, like, I'm just happy that if I make a sale to a retail store, I love it. If I make sales to e-commerce, I love it. And I love that I can do both, because I think there's a lot of products out there now still that are like, it's like one or the other, or, but I've been able to grow my business having both kinds of customers.
Thank you. One other really quick question.
Yeah.
So with the interns, I know they probably had to do quite a bit, kind of have to play many different roles. What was your first official position hire, and why did you feel like that needed to be like the first hire?
See, my first hire was, I just needed somebody to help me answer the phones, and like get organized, I was literally packaging orders, designing the bras. I was doing everything myself, and I just needed somebody to, take some of it, So that person did everything. Oh, this is another thing, is I always say, like, I won't ask you to do anything I haven't already done before, and I'll still do it if I need to, So I needed her to do everything that I could do, which included packaging or answering the phone, making a sale. But aside from that first person, I also, my next, it was almost about the same time as I hired a salesperson. Because I was doing all the sales myself, which was helpful, and I think, but I needed a dedicated salesperson to make all those phone calls, get,
Was that commission or was that paid? Curious.
Back
then.
Back then, I think I just paid her. Like, she was, I just paid her hourly at the time, because I just said, like, I just need somebody to make these phone calls, and I gave her like a staff like this. I go, I need people to make appointments at this trade show, and here. And then, but that's what sales is a lot of the time. Sales has changed since then too. A lot of sales can be done online. People prefer getting things by email. Before we had to travel a lot more to stores and visits, and but now shipping's cheaper. We ship samples out. We do things by email. We'll send videos of things
Do
to
you do
people.
catalogs online?
Yeah, we do catalogs online now. So more and more, it's, I also, when I first started my business, because traditionally when you had a clothing brand especially, you needed a showroom. Like that was the only other way you can get your clothes
In
into a
stores.
store.
Yeah.
So I had a couple showrooms that I got into, but I kept, and I was doing it, and then I was also doing my own sales at the same time. They only had certain territories, like I had New York, San Francisco, and Texas, and I was kind of doing everything in between. And but I'd go to a trade show and I'd be like, all these stores that I hadn't heard of hadn't bought my stuff, but they were buying it now from me, not from my showroom. So that's when I started to rethink everything, and I was like, okay, and I have to pay showroom fees, and you have to pay commission, and you have a lot of, expenses. You're paying their expenses. You're paying them, and they weren't. They made some sales, and I got some good introductions, but it wasn't like I was meeting a lot more people on my own. I was like, I can just do this. I'm going to hire my own in-house salesperson. I'm going to train them the way I do the pitch that I do, and sell it to them myself. And that changed my business too, because I felt like I could reach a lot more people. I was limited to the people I could reach because I had these showrooms in these places that kind of locked those territories down.
And they're not exclusive.
And they're not exclusive.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I have a quick question.
Go ahead.
How did the relationship with Target come about? What leverage did you have as far as like a huge following, or like what could you give them with the Target relationship?
So, Target came to us through a trade show. They met us, and they said they've been following us. They have they've been following us for a bit. They were doing a big campaign to expand their assortment of sizes. So, and assortment of different kinds of bras, like they were doing maternity bras, and so they wanted to kind of, because they're intimates, they were doing that. They saw we were kind of like the only people specializing in petites and smaller, so they were doing, full figured and everything like that. So then that's why they came to us.
And
Yeah.
were you prepared for the requirements that big retailer,
Uh-huh.
had, or was it like I have to catch up, or?
They give you a document.
They give you a document, and you
Or
gotta.
was it, were you like small, like was it in a situation to where you wasn't prepared for these special requirements?
Yes.
Or you already kind of had these systems in place?
No, there's definitely steps that we had to make to ship to them, even, but I was willing to make the investment or the thing for them. Again, it's a learning. It's like, oh, okay, you need that? I'm like, what does that mean? Okay, I'll figure it out. You just don't figure it out. Still, it's like, they give you this, a document this big, and it's like, follow instructions. And you just follow instructions, and you make it happen, Yeah.
Great.
Here's your
Okay, last question right here.
I know you said that you have to have inventory to run an online business, so how do you know how much to order? So are you gonna order like 500,000 bras, or are you just gonna order 300, and you know what I mean? Like
Right.
how much is too much
Yeah.
to order?
So, in the beginning, I didn't know. I didn't know what I was ordering. In the beginning, I was just ordering like the minimum of what I had to, and that was just enough or too much even, sometimes. So I would say then I figured it out. Then you start to have history, because you don't have a history, and then you kind of are able to do projections and stuff like that. But when I first started, I had nothing. So I was just like guessing and just selling what I had and figuring it out. But, of course now we have a history of sales and numbers and projections and stuff like that. And so that's how we order our inventory now. But before that, sometimes you're just like, however, it was a little bit a shot in the dark.
All right, well, that's a wrap. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Emily.
Thank you all for coming.
Thanks, everybody.